Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. So Gearbest sent me an Anet E10 3D printer for an unboxing and review video, and I got that in the mail here today. I was really excited about this printer when I first saw pictures of it. However, when I read down through the specifications and I noticed a smaller build area and really nothing innovative about the printer and the current retail price of $299 US, I was really disappointed. I think with the marketing scheme of this printer, they're trying to lure people in, people who are new to 3D printing, into believing this is some sort of like CR10 alternative but at a cheaper price. But once you read through the specifications, you realize it's not. Why don't we get in for a close-up here and we'll do an unboxing and we'll see what's in the box. Okay, let's open up the box, see how it's packaged, see what's inside, see how it's organized. Okay, right away we got some sample PLA, which I will not be using. Looks like we've got some, I don't know what to call it, some, it looks like build tack with 3M on the other side, printing surface for the printer, a little manual, full color assembly manual, so full color assembly manual, and some material for your build surface. I don't know how durable this stuff is. Okay, so we'll set that aside. Now this printer is supposed to come mostly assembled, and that it is. So there's a little box of materials here. We'll open that up first to see what we have in there. So we've got our Bowden tube, some zip ties, screwdriver, thumb drive with micro SD card. We have some screws, some T-nuts, and our hot end, some Allen keys, USB cable for connecting it to your PC, and that's the little box. We have a putty knife here, a metal putty knife. So I doubt I'll ever use that for this. All my printers I use a plastic putty knife. And here we have the base of the printer. So we'll set it up here like this. So we have some metal brackets here on the side already attached. We have this plastic strip on here. I don't mind it. I like the color. Our bed is already attached. Let's flip the bed over here. Take a look at it. So it's a unique, and I had stuff falling all over the place. Let's set this stuff on here. So it's a unique size to this build plate. It's 220 by 270, and it's the full heated bed. And they have it zip tied here so it doesn't move in transportation. It's got these rubber feet. Those are pretty neat. I like those. It is not open build extrusion. It is the cheaper style extrusion, which doesn't necessarily bother me. My Cosmo Minis have this type of extrusion and it doesn't bother me one bit. We have some end caps here that are 3D printed. And we have some other 3D printed parts on here I noticed. The two brackets that hold our smooth rods in place are 3D printed. So that's pretty cheesy for a $300 US printer. So let's set this aside for now. see what else we have in here. We have a power cable. We have our assembly for our spool, also 3D printed. So we have our hot end assembly, which from the looks of it is already pre-wired to the box. So everything's pre-wired, which is nice, but it's not quick connect like the CR10. And this box here has some dents in it. So you see right there, I got a few dents already in the box. And before we put the printer together, I'll crack this open and we'll see what's inside and what kind of components we have in there and what we get for $300. Okay, so it looks like we have a spring here, a nut and a screw that came out of the build plate. These were loose inside the packaging, so that could be damaging. So I fault them for that. Everything's not tightly connected together. It does have a more premium screen. It's really loose feeling in there. Again, but I'll take this apart and we'll take a look inside there and we'll see what the components inside are made up of. But everything is wired, pre-wired. And the only other piece in here, because there's not much to a printer that's pretty much pre-assembled, is the tower and gantry assembly. We have so the hot end that I took out there is a spare because we have one already attached, and they have it clipped down for, well, I guess you can't move it around, but it's not really clipped in place securely. So let's look in the back here. Let's get this box off the table first off. Now we don't need it. Okay, so we do have, now there's a couple of things I'm noticing right away. We do have the two Z motors and 2-threaded rods, but this one here has got quite a bow to it. I don't know if you can notice that on camera. I might go get a ruler and put a ruler there, but there's quite a bow to that. This one looks fairly straight. We have an all-metal extruder assembly. Now this does have, because it's not open build extrusion, it does have the small rubber wheels, not the V-slotted wheels. And these wheels, that's what works for this type of extrusion. So I have nothing against that, because that's what's meant to go with this type of extrusion. It's just, this is a cheaper type of extrusion, a cheaper option. Let's take this little this screw and this little spring and put it in here before I lose it. Okay, so again, this printer comes mostly assembled. We won't use that. This comes mostly assembled out of the box. The wiring's all done. I want to take a look inside this electronics box to see what kind of hardware we have in there. But yeah, that's it. That's it for what's inside the box. And again, I think Anet is taking advantage of the CR10 train, sort of riding on their coattails, kind of ripping off their design a little bit, but doing it on the very cheap. So I'm going to take a pause, I'm going to come back, and we're going to have this little box disassembled before I put the printer together, and we'll go over what's inside. Okay, here we have the box, the electronics box apart. So we've got some we've got a controller board here, and I don't know if these are actually supposed to be bent that way. There is no MOSFET in here, so if you're gonna wanna put a MOSFET in, you're gonna have to figure out where you're gonna hook it up. Maybe down here somewhere. They're fair size, so. But there is no MOSFET in this setup, unlike the CR10, which has a MOSFET to ensure that the heated bed doesn't fry your board. So we have our display here, and if you see here, I didn't go into here or do anything yet, but I would have had to open it anyways, because this one here isn't even connected. Okay, so let's take a look around. We got a cooling fan. I don't know what that's going to do, that tiny cooling fan. Absolutely nothing in there. Circulate the air that's in there around at a very low pace. We got another same size cooling fan in the back down below. We got the only decent feature about this little electronics box is the physical on and off switch here. And if you see here, these you can buy. You can pick these up online for about $2 or $3, and it has a inline fuse right there. So that's not a big expense. That's not a big expense to add to any 3D printer setup, and it doesn't. It's not one of the components that would warrant the high price of this printer. There's a small plastic standoff here. I don't know what that's for. There's nothing through it. There's nothing attached to it. Let's look at our wiring here. Everything there seems to be okay. Nothing loose. We're gonna check to see what country this comes for to the box. It comes for $220. So there is a slot on the side to switch it. You don't have to open this up to switch it. Switch that now. So yeah, that's the inside. The case is a nice case. It's all metal, but really it's just giving you this illusion of a premium feel. It's not premium at all. It's just giving you the illusion. Everything you find in here, you could typically find on like an Anet E10 Plus with the upgraded LCD, the same board as all their other printers, and the same power supply. So I don't know what the rating is on this. Let's see. We can see here 20 amps. So yeah, the same power supply. I do not know how that is going to work out, given the fact that we have a heated bed that's larger than their standard heated bed that this power supply comes with. Okay, so I'm going to cut back out here, and I'm going to put the bottom back together on this. Double check everything, make sure everything is secured like it should be in there, and because I'm really concerned given the fact that this cable was out. And then we'll put the printer together. Okay, now that we've taken a look inside the electronics box, we're going to put this printer together. Let's set some stuff aside for now. There isn't too much to the printer. There's some and even these side brackets are already installed for us. I'd like to comment on the price. I personally would not pay $300 US for this printer. Knowing that I could pay $100 more for the CR10, I wouldn't pay $300 for this printer. Now, this printer has a slightly larger build volume than your X3 out of the box. My X3 actually has a larger build volume than this because I've made it that way. This printer, however, you're not going to be able to enlarge it any more than it is. But my X3, if you go through my videos, you'll see I have a video where I don't do a whole lot to it. I just make a few modifications and I add a larger aluminum plate that gives me a 285 by 255 millimeter build area. I gotta raise this up. There we go. It was down too low. Okay. The X3 has more acrylic. It doesn't have a premium feel to the box. You'll have to do all your wiring yourself, and you're going to do all the assembly. The only advantages I see the X3 having to this printer are the open build extrusions. But the X3 is $75 less, and you can take that money, you can put it towards 4 or 5 rolls of cheap filament. Or you could spend another $100 and you can get a premium printer like the CR10. Now, I don't know if this printer has a category that I could fall into that it would convince me to purchase it. So there's just 2 screws to tighten there. I noticed the bottom ones over here were loose, that were already pre-installed, so I'm going to tighten those. And then there's the 2 screws. See, that's not even put in. Like, there's nothing holding these in even though they're tightened. So I'm going to have to, see? It's another thing I hate about these smaller T-nuts. And I get them on the X3. I get them on, what other printers have I gotten this on? The X1. And I hate them. They're so small they can spin inside the extrusion, and a lot of times they'll just stay in. You'll put them in and they won't catch, and they'll stay like that, and they don't hook to anything. So this wasn't hooked to anything. Okay, should be 2. Bolts here. Go on the bottom. Okay. So, they put the printer together for you, but sometimes they put it together wrong. So these Z motors with the connector on the inside, before I even hook up any wires, is actually hitting the knobs for my bed. These should be turned 90 degrees with the connectors on the back. So that means I got to take them off. Again, if they're going to assemble it for you, they should do it right. Or else what's the point? You're assembling it yourself anyway. And they're not in the T-nuts in this one, I know for sure. It didn't grab. Look at that. And the same thing with this one. Didn't grab. Okay. So, let's do something here. I don't want to... I want to be able to get access to this. There we go. should be one more here. There it is. So we're not off to a good start. We got loose connectors. Connector's not connected at all. T-nut's not engaged, and motor's installed the wrong direction. And I got a stripped screw here that I can't turn. How am I gonna get that? And they got a stripped screw also. So maybe they should cut about $75 off the price and sell it as a kit with assembly required instead of this bogus crap. I'm not going to be able to get that out of there. Doesn't look like that screw's going to want to turn. It's stripped. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to get that screw. It is stripped. So, take this motor off. There we go. There. Now we're not hitting the motors. Okay. So now that we've done that little fix, let's take a look. The only thing we have to really do here is hook up the wiring and put on the printer spool. So what do we got here? We've got our hot end. So we'll do that in a minute. Heated bed. Right there. We have our X-axis motor and X-axis limit switch. Have this thing's just poorly thought out. Where I need to hook my red wire for my end stop here, it's sitting right on a it's sitting right on a screw. Now let's see. I don't know if you can see that. See that? Look at that. That's retarded. I don't know why this isn't out here somewhere where it can actually hit the shroud itself. So that might be a future modification that somebody might be willing to do. However, it won't be me. I don't know if it's going to be worth wasting my time modifying this printer. Right up against that screw. Okay. Next. Our Y. that's loose too. Okay, we have our left z-axis and our right z-axis, as if that matters. And the funny thing is our right z-axis, which is right here, so maybe I'm going to put the box over here. I think that's the place for it, because the right z-axis motor wire is longer. Screw motor. Okay, let's just lose our hot end. This printer does come with filament cooling out of the box, so you won't have to worry about buying a fan for that. It has a blower style fan instead of the straight through fan. I'm looking here though, and I don't have any, like the how to explain it. I can't stand wiring like this. This is all going to get zip tied together here. All this. Took this back up. Okay, so I've never seen this before. The hot end is flush right to this bracket. So I'm actually going to undo that. I'm going to put a few washers in the back. You shouldn't have to, but it's flush right to this. So all these slots in the heatsink right now serve no purpose. And given that this is a tiny heatsink to begin with, you want it to get all the cooling that it can get. And this isn't going to cut it. So I'm going to, even a little tiny bit of space would be good enough to get some airflow through there. I have some washers here that are a little thicker than normal, a little over, there might be 2 millimeter. So they'll give me just enough space. I'm going to show you here up close. Right, so it'll give me a little bit of space back there so we have some airflow. It's no big deal for me. It's 2 washers. This is a design flaw, but there's quite a few design flaws here. So so I have a little space now in behind there. Here you can see I can take the smallest of the Allen keys and actually put it in behind now. So I'm happy with that. So let's get our heater element installed. Must be all the way in already. I've only looked at the manual once there, just to make sure I was doing something right here that I was questioning. Other than that, I haven't looked at it yet. But I'm going to after I get this shroud installed, because I have a whole bag of T-nuts here. Oh, actually, written right on it, spare parts. So we have 8 spare T-nuts and 8 spare screws for those T-nuts. It's great. So I'll have 2 screws left to figure out what these go to. Actually, I know what they go to. Never mind. So we'll just have these 2 screws left that we use to we just have these 2 screws left after this. We just have these 2 screws left after I've finished installing the shroud, and they're used to install the spool holder. And then generous enough to give us this bag of spare parts. There's 8 T-nuts and 8 screws in there for the T-nuts. So I'm going to loosen up my pulley assemblies here in the end so I can tighten up these belts because they're fairly loose. The Y belt, the printer does come with built-in belt tensioning, so that is one plus. I don't see that. I haven't seen that in any printer that I've purchased or received so far. I usually had to design my own belt tensioning, but this one comes with belt tensioning right out of the box, already assembled in place. So that's a pretty neat feature. It's not how can I put it? It's not like an expensive feature. All they did is use a couple of wig nuts. They bent the bracket and they put a special type of eye-slotted bolt through it. So it's no more expensive than, say, the front assembly on the CR10. It's just a little more thought out. Okay. So there's the printer. All the wiring's done except, well, this came off. And that's because I've got a screw in there in the way. Fuck you. So let's attach our spool holder and then that should be it. Unfortunately, it's not large enough to hide that ugly dent. This spool holder is not made to hold a very big spool either. I know I have some spools that are a lot wider than that. So we have a spare heater block, nozzle, and heat throat. Okay, so I took a little pause to put this build tack type material down. It feels like build tack, so it's pretty neat that the printer comes with it. If it works, that's great. But I noticed something. I want to show everybody something here. So we're going to move this back. That's as far as it goes. Check that out. Now, I'm not hitting anything. I'm not hitting the end stop. So I'm wondering what's wrong. What else could be wrong? So I take a look. I get down here and I see this nastiness. So if you look here, this is straight right up to about here. And then it just starts bending straight down on both sides. Both sides bend straight down. There's a good, I don't know, let's look here, like a good 1/4 inch bend in that out of the box. Unbelievable. So what's happening here is when I push this back, I hit those printed brackets. The front's not bent, so when we move it forward, we're just clearing. But due to this 1/4 inch bend, absolutely awful. Like if I paid $300 US for this printer and I got this like this, oh, I would be so pissed. So far we had to fix these motors and I looked online at some reference photos, and they do come with these brackets or these connectors on the inside facing the printer. So that's a design flaw right there. Now I'm gonna have to figure out how to fix this massive 1/4 inch bend in this 3mm aluminum plate. So I'm gonna go off camera for a minute, tinker with this, and see what I can do, and see if I can salvage this. So, it's not pretty. I mean, I'm not going to be able to straighten that perfectly. Still got to play with it a little bit. But at least I shouldn't hit, at least I should clear these now. So, let's get the bed back on it and take one good look over this thing to make sure there's no other issues before I power it on and level the bed. My hand bending job did the trick, but this plate is far from straight. I'll never be able to get it straight unless I take it off here and work on it with some actual tools instead of doing it by hand. Yeah, that's a souring thing right there. For the price of this printer, you should never get anything like that out of the box. Okay, so we go all the way back now. We engage the Y-axis end stop. Now I'm going to just pause here, mount the camera, go over everything, give it a once over, because there was a lot of loose components on it already. And then I'll level the bed and we'll get a test print going. Okay, so there's a few things I'm going to have an issue with here, so they'll require some modifications. Is this this cable for the heated bed? When you come out with this, and it's mostly the way they set up the Y-axis belt. It goes in on a side to side instead of up and over. So this thing can get caught in there quite easily. This thing can get hung up in there quite easy. So it's due to the fact the way this assembly was designed and thought of, and the fact that this is so loose and it's just hanging here in the center, that could easily get caught up in there. I'm not a big fan of the way this is set up. Also, because this board is not your traditional 220 by 220, I can't just flip that to the side and have my cable coming over here like I did on the Anet E10, and then had a cable chain and everything was just great on there. So this is a concern for me here with repeated use. I'm going to have to look into doing something there. I don't want to do any modifications for this printer. I'm not interested in that at all. To me, for $300 out of the box, with no real outstanding features, I shouldn't have to do anything. If it was a $200 kit, then I expect that I might have to design some items or go online and hunt down some upgrades, but not for $300. Not at this build area. I don't plan on doing anything. And if I do have a change of heart there, I'll let everybody know. But I think there should be something like these two strips here removed, and a plastic shroud, at least a shroud for this, like maybe out to there. Just a little cap that goes over that, 3D printed cap, to prevent any issues from happening there. Something like that. It would be easy to come up with something like that, and it would really reduce the risk of this getting caught up in this setup here. This really should have been turned this way, but that's the way they designed it. So I'm not happy with that. It is what it is. So I just wanted to point this out to everyone, like the belt design back here and the way it's set up. First thing I want to do is turn the printer on and heat the bed up so that I can see how flat it is. See if I'm going to need a piece of glass or anything like that for the bed. Okay. A couple of beeps. Well, Printer is ready. Let's okay, so let's go here. Let's auto home, and instead of homing, so I want to show everybody this now before I do anything. Okay, what does this wire say? Extruder. Extruder. Okay, so I didn't wire anything up in the box. It came pre-wired. So let's auto home this. Watch what motor spins. Instead of my X-axis motor, watch this. Again, extruder. So obviously they wired that wrong in the box. Like, if this wasn't a YouTube video, if I wasn't recording this, I'd be cursing profusely right now. Like, come on! What is the point of selling a printer? One of the main features is it's mostly assembled if the end user has to take everything apart again. Like, I'm getting frustrated here. So I'm gonna just switch the cables out here. I'm not gonna screw around in there. And let's hope that everything else was like, there's no other issues with the wiring besides this and what I found earlier. Okay, let's see, position, auto home. There we go. Ridiculous. What I could do is I could just take the spare one, I guess, and just quick swap them out. I think that's what I might do. Okay. So I'm gonna take that out. Okay, I see what they did wrong. I stand corrected. It is a Teflon tube. It should be this way around. The Teflon should not be down in this block. You want your plastic to heat up down here. You don't want your plastic to heat up here. So I took this assembly apart just now, and earlier, as you recall, I took it out of the bag and I showed you in the end. I said, oh, there's no Teflon in that. There is Teflon. It's just in upside down. So whoever put this printer together didn't have a lot of experience in doing so. Hopefully they get better in the future. So I'm not going to bother taking this assembly apart now that we have plastic all melted in it. It's just simpler to take the heater element and thermistor out. And okay, I'm going to let that bed heat up again. It heats up pretty fast. While that's heating up, let's re-level this. Bed's at 50, we should be good there. But this is going to be annoying. I'll have to fix that up. That's because I had to swap the X and the extruder connector, so I got a loop over there, so I'll fix that up later. Okay. Printer's not very level either. I know this table's level, but this printer's not. So just a quick, just a very short turn with all of them, just to give an even distribution. There we go. Okay, let's home it. Put our Bowden tube back in place. I have no idea what's going on there. I'll have to take a look. Try rehoming it again and see what happens. Maybe you got a wire. Yeah, that's what happened there. Me playing around. Wire came loose on the end stop for the X-axis. These ones, what I'm going to have to do is, they're quite loose. They've come up off on me already a couple times, so I'm going to have to just pinch them a little. That way they'll stay on the connectors a lot better. I almost would have preferred these end stops switches not being pre-assembled on here. I would have preferred to put the wires on them first. It's very difficult to get to some of them. There we go. So let's auto home it one more time. Make sure it's correct. Okay. We're almost up to temperature. We're up to temperature on the bed. Let's see if taking the spare. So fortunately, it does come with a spare. So you're not going to run into the issue. I don't know if I can get that in the focus. There's clog in there now. So double check it when you go to install it. Make sure your Teflon's at the top, not at the bottom. It'll save you some grief. What is going on? Hold on. Something's wrong. Okay. So we destroyed our material here because something screwed up on my Z-axis. Okay, round two. Let's see if what happened before happens again. So I don't know what that stuttering was. I checked the wires on the end stops. Everything's good there, so we're just waiting for the hot end to heat up again. I used some tape on the bed. I got some cheap dollar store tape that I don't need glue stick for. PLA sticks well to it when the bed's heated up. Gonna have to clean this goo off there. So again, I don't know what happened with it, but she dropped down. Okay, let's start everything up. Up. Here we go. Now see, I don't know what that is right there. So I'm going to have to investigate what's going on. Where do I start? So I figured out what that vibration was when the printer homed and then raised and centered. This threaded rod was binding up. So I loosened the brass fitting. I also loosened this top printed piece. It shifted over a little bit on its own when it was free, so I tightened it back up. And that seemed to take care of that issue. So that's what that issue was. I had to change out the nozzle and the throat again because I couldn't figure out what was causing a skipping issue that I was having. It's still not printing as good as I'd like it to print. I'm going to have to play around with it a little bit more, but it is printing. So that is the one hurdle that I'm over. The printer is printing now. So now that it is up and running, let's go over the positives, the negatives, the obvious things. So for me, one of the, I don't know, I'm trying to think of some positives right now. thanks to the threaded rods on the base instead of a piece of 20/20 extrusion, the bed is quite stable. That is one positive for the printer. It's got dual Z-axis, but again, that can be a problem if one of them binds up or if you have a bent rod. The electronics housing has a nice premium feel to it, but that's just for show. That, in the end, it doesn't really do anything. It gives you a false sense of premium feeling. So maybe that isn't a positive, because giving you a false sense of a premium feeling, somebody would look at that all metal box, and they might assume that there's a MOSFET in there or some other form of overheat protection. But as we've seen earlier in the video, there's not. It's the same electronics in there as you'd find on the Anet E10 Plus. The same LCD, same power supply, which concerns me because this heated bed is a bigger heated bed. So it's going to require a little bit more juice. It does have belt tensioning out of the box on the Y-axis. It comes, all the cables are all like pre-done and braided. That is nice. I'm really trying to grasp for some positives here, but I think I'm just grasping. So I'm going to skip ahead to the negatives. The first negative is the QC. Anet, your quality control, as far as this printer goes, absolutely sucks. So that's where do I begin? Let's see. When I opened the box, there were cables not plugged in. It was just your power connectors in there are all twisted on an angle that they shouldn't be on. I'm worried that's going to let go. You get these two little fans in there. They're not going to do anything. Put an 80mm fan in there, or a 120 silent. You have room for an 80. Why are you going to put a little? It's 30mm fan. It's not even like. It's not going to do anything. Another issue I have is your wiring inside the box is obviously, in some cases, backwards. Once I finished hooking up everything on the printer and I went to home it, my extruder started spinning. And when you look in the video, you'll see it's labeled extruder, the wiring. So obviously, they were wired backwards in the box. It's not a big thing, I just flip it with the X. It would have been a big thing if it was one of the other motors, say a Z motor or something. Then I would have had to go back in the box. I would have had to swap those out. So I would have had to unscrew the bottom plate. I would have had to take that all apart. And I don't really want to do that. My next issue, really big issue, is that aluminum bed plate was bent over a 1/4 inch out on both back tabs. And it wouldn't allow the bed to go back as far as it should. So I had to manually, by hand, straighten that out as best I can. That was one of the biggest issues I had with this printer. A design flaw. Here's another negative. There's a design flaw with this printer. These two motors, these two Z stepper motors, and I looked at the promotional photos online, stock photos. These two stepper motors come pre-assembled to this tower frame, and they come in such a way that the connectors for them are facing the bed of the printer. And that's going to cause these little knobs underneath here to actually rub up against them and hit them before I even plug in the wires. So that is a design flaw. I had to actually remove both of them, flip them around so that they were coming at the back, which they properly should. And I had troubles there. There was a screw stripped in this one. I had to actually take a wrench to get it out. I had problems with this threaded rod, like I mentioned. That's another negative. The negative, it's the quality control is a big negative for this printer. Another big negative is there's no MOSFET in that box. You're going to get the illusion of a premium feel unless you're somebody that opens that box and sees there's no MOSFET in there. You won't realize that maybe you might have to put one in there. It is not open build extrusion. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with the fact that there's no eccentric nuts on here. I don't have a problem with the fact that it has just these these wheels on here that are suited for this extrusion. I've got two Colossal Minis, same type of extrusion, same type of wheels. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me that they use this type of extrusion, even regardless of the price. What bothers me is I understand why they're charging $299 for this printer. I think it's overpriced personally, but you're paying, I would say, about a $75 premium because you're getting a printer that's 90% built out of the box. If they can get their quality control crap together and send out a product that doesn't have any issues at all, throw a MOSFET in there as well. Come on, they're 10 bucks. Throw a MOSFET in there, but get your quality control together. It's just a matter now of when you order this printer and you get it home, two screws underneath, install your shroud, connect all your cables, spool, you're good to go. You should have this printer, if it wasn't for the quality control issues, you should be able to have this printer up and running within the first 30 to 40 minutes after you've taken it out of the box. For me, it was an ordeal. I've had an easier time with other printers that I've had to put together from scratch, but this printer was a little bit of an ordeal, and I think maybe that's because I expected, given that it's 99% built, that I would not have to disassemble anything, but that wasn't the case here. So they missed the mark. They missed the mark like by a mile. We'll see how good these prints come out on it. I'm just printing a small vase. It's going to be about that high for now, and we'll test it out throughout the weeks, and I'll do a follow-up. But nobody's going to tell me that this is worth $300 US plus $50, $60 US shipping to where I live anyway. It might be free to where you live, but to where I live, it's $50 to $60 US shipping. So forget the shipping. $300 US. This printer is not worth that. If they want to knock $50 to $60 off the price, if they were to charge, say $249.99 for this printer, I think that is the price slot for this printer. I think that's where it would fit. I understand, as I said, why they would charge. For example, the X3 is $225 US. This printer is $75 more. But somebody actually had to take their time and put this printer together. The X3, you're going to take your time to put it together. You're going to spend 5, 6 hours putting that printer together if all the quality control on it was done right to begin with. Same with the Anet E10. You're going to take 5, 6 hours to put that printer together. So somebody put this printer together. You have 6 to 8 screws that you're going to put in. Other than that, it's all together. There's 5 hours of your labor saved there. So I can understand why they're charging that $75 premium. It's just their QC, it just screws it all up. I was really excited to get this printer in. I like the look of it, I really do. It's got similar build area to the X3. It's got a longer Y-axis, but you can easily make the X3's Y-axis longer. But this printer had a lot of potential. I don't mind the look. I don't mind the stripes. I know they're ripping off the CR10. I know that they're playing off the hype of the CR10. And hey, I get it. You know, everybody wants a piece of the pie. This printer is $100 less than the CR10. The price is not justified to me. If as I said, if the quality control was bang on, and all I had to do was out of the box, spent 20 minutes on this, and it was up and running, it might be worth $300 US, maybe close. But I still think the proper price range for this printer is around $250 US. That's what they should charge for this printer, or you know, send it as a kit. Put it together yourself, charge $225. There's nothing special in this other than the fact that it comes mostly assembled. Other than that, there's nothing new to it, there's nothing special. You're not going to be able to make this build area much bigger. You're pretty much up against these motors now. But one thing I do that I do like about the printer, the more I look at it, is it's got the same build area as my X3, a little bit, but I've modified that. It's got a little bit bigger build area than an A8 and a 100mm taller build area than an A8, but it takes up a lot less space than either one of those printers. Like in this direction dimensionally, like let me grab my tape measure. Like in this dimension here, just the base alone is only 320mm. So the footprint of the printer is pretty small considering the build area. But it's still, as I said, it doesn't justify the price. You're all going to have to make up your own minds whether or not something like this is worth it. You can buy it for the cool factor. You know, look at what I've got here. I've got like a mini knockoff of the CR10, if that's something you're interested in. You can buy it for the fact that it's almost all assembled. I would wait a little while on that. I would like wait till somebody comes out maybe with a video showing that there's no quality control issues, and you might feel a little more comfortable then. I know when I bought my X3 there was a lot of control issues there, and there were issues that I had to deal with. But when I bought my when I got the A8 in, I had no issues with the components there at all. When I got the X1, which is quite a while after other reviewers have gotten theirs and reviewed theirs, I had no issues with the X1 either. This is a brand new printer to market. There's probably going to be a lot of bugs they need to work out. I think they might have rushed it. So you might be better off waiting a little while. If you're interested in this printer, just wait a little while. The price might come down. They might improve upon it. They might smarten up and put a MOSFET in that box. That box, that nice metal box, deserves a MOSFET. It does. Like, if there was a MOSFET in there, that would bring my opinion of this printer up like a lot more than it is. But right now, it's pretty far down. So I'm going to leave you on this note. Wait. If you're thinking about this, wait. Wait a while. Maybe the price will come down. Maybe hopefully the QC will go up, way up. And if you really, really need a printer right now, you got some DIY skills, I would try out the A8. I really like that little printer. There's a huge community for it. I never thought I'd be into an acrylic printer at all, but I really like it. I've got some amazing prints off it. You can see some of those in my previous videos. It's a lot more user-friendly printer than something like the X3, which you're going to have to do, you know, tinker with, figure out if you've got a bed wobble. I never had that issue, but a lot of people had that issue. And it's a lot more budget-friendly than something like the CR10. The Anet E10 most of the time can be had for like under $160. So if you're really desperate for a printer right now and you have some DIY skills, that would be the printer I would go after. If you don't want to build the printer and you've got a few extra $100 beyond what this is, get the CR10. You won't be disappointed with that printer. That is a fantastic printer. I love that printer. It's my favorite printer of all my printers. But I would wait on this. Hold off. Hold off. Let's see if the price goes down, and hopefully the quality control goes way up, because it needs to go way up. And for the price point it's at right now, they need to throw a MOSFET in that box and put a few other goodies on this to make it more tempting and fix some of their design flaws. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you like it, subscribe. Check out some of my other videos. So long for now.